in your career. And so that's something that students will often consider as well when they're looking at Occidental. In terms of our residential experiences, all students are required to live on campus your first 3 years. And then about 80% of our students live on campus all 4 years. So it's a very residential experience. Through this experience, you really get to know your classmates. You have those, deep discussions late at night. There's a lot more activities and clubs and organizations that are planning activities and events because we have a robust residential experience where all of our students are together on campus during the school year. We also offer athletics. About 25% of our students are varsity athletes. We're Division III, and we're part of the SCIAC conference, the Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. We play the Claremore Colleges, Caltech, Cal Lutheran, University of La Verne, University of Redlands, Chapman University. We all compete in the same conference. And so if athletics is something that you're interested in as well, scan the QR code, reach out to the coaches, and get started on that athletic recruitment process. We have about 100 clubs and organizations on campus, including cultural and affinity clubs, religious organizations, service clubs, academic and professional organizations. I would say out of our clubs, about a third of our clubs are academic-based, a third are affinity-based, and then a third are athletic-based. Athletics, for example, about 50% of our, or an additional 25% of our students are participating in athletics or club athletics. Our ultimate frisbee teams, for example, the men's team made it to number 13 nationally, and the women's team made it to number 17th nationally, and they both competed in Ohio for the championship game in this past spring. So that's something that, you're not, even if you're not interested in being a varsity athlete, there's still a lot of robust activities on campus. Our most popular club right now is Dance Pro, Dance Production, and they have about 10% of our student population participate in it every year. It's sort of become a tradition to do it at least once before you graduate. You don't need any dance background to join dance production, but it's a great kind of indicator to show how tightly knit the community is. When showcase happens in the spring, everyone is there, faculty, staff, students, because when you have 10% of the student population doing something, everyone knows someone who's in that production. This is where most of our graduates would go after graduating from Oxy. You'll see a pie chart on the left in terms of which sector they head into. Employers of recent graduates and recent graduate programs that our students head to. I would say about on top of this, in terms of the graduate programs, about 20% of our students will pursue a graduate program right after graduation. But when we do a poll, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we find that 70% of our graduates eventually end up getting their terminal degree. So right now, it's just not super popular for students to pursue graduate school right afterwards. There's a trend nationally, it's not just Oxy, but there's a trend to head into work and get some work experience right away. But we find our students are ending up in graduate school afterwards anyways. In terms of the admission process, we're both on the common application and coalition application. We have 3 rounds of applications for first-year students. Early Decision 1 is due November 15th. Early Decision 2 is due January 10th. And regular decision is due January 10th as well. For early decision, it is binding. If you apply, you can only apply to one early decision school at a time. If you're admitted, you have to enroll at that college. But it's your way of telling us that, I'm super excited about Oxy. I'm very dedicated to come here. We filled up about 40% of our class through early decision. And the biggest differences between early decision and regular decision is the acceptance rate, because we get our most passionate students in early decision. The applicant pool is a lot smaller. Our acceptance rate is actually 50%, whereas a regular decision is around 30 to 33%. So there's a big difference in terms of the different application rounds. So that's definitely something to think about if you're considering early Oxy as one of your top choices. We are SAT and ACT test optional. We moved towards a test optional policy during the pandemic, we're now permanently test optional. This past year, 70% of our applicants did not submit a test score, and 70% of our admitted students did not submit test scores. So there's no correlation between, whether you submitted your test score and whether you got into Oxy. To us, we do a holistic review of your application, which means that we're looking at every single part of your application. And so testing is not a biggest part. I think a good way to describe this is if you were, instead of looking at each individual tree, we look at an entire forest. And so for you, your application is a forest, and now one part is going to outweigh the other. At the end of the day, for us, a random Saturday morning where you take your SAT or ACT is not going to tell us if you're going to be a good roommate or a good contributor in the classroom or a good researcher, or someone who wants to do study abroad or do internships. And so it's not a big determining factor in terms of your application process. In terms of financial aid, we do meet 100% of demonstrated need, which means that whatever your family is able to contribute, the gap between that and Oxy's total cost of attendance, which for us includes tuition, room and board, transportation, medical expenses / insurance, books, fees, miscellaneous costs, those are all included in your financial aid calculations. And I think this is a big kind of misconception in California specifically, where students feel that, I'm not going to even consider private institutions because, my family's not able to contribute that, or we're not going to receive any financial aid. 75% of our students receive financial aid, and about 33% of our students are coming from California. A good amount of, oftentimes our students are receiving better financial aid than the UC systems because we're a private institution and we can decide where our money goes instead of, a UC or state system where they have to, answer to the governor or to the Board of Regents for the UC systems. And so for us, we have a lot more flexibility in terms of helping our students receive financial aid. We also have the Cal Grant Promise. So if you're in California and you qualify for Cal Grant, you actually get your entire tuition waived, plus about $10,000 to $15,000 in financial aid every year. We also offer Merit Aid Scholarship. There's no separate application process for Merit Aid Scholarship. Everyone who applies to Oxy is automatically considered for Merit Aid Scholarship. They range from $12,000 to $35,000 every year, renewable all 4 years. They're awarded at your time of your decision. So you're going to receive an acceptance letter from us with your financial aid package, with your Merit Aid scholarships. And it doesn't matter if you're applying early decision or regular decision, we're going to award the historical top 25% of our pool with Merit Aid scholarships. And that's all I have to say about Oxy. We have about 15 minutes left. I see we have a few questions. If you have any questions or want to learn more about specific things at Oxy, feel free to put it in the Q&A box, and I'll try to get to all of them as possible. And yeah, I'll welcome Patrick back up.
All right, thank you. Such wonderful information. I think that really helps too, because it sort of like demystifies a lot of the things that people might think about liberal arts colleges, right? So yeah, I guess we already have some questions in the Q&A box. So I'll have our guest, of course, take first shot at it, and if I can chime in for maybe one or two, I certainly can. But you're here for him today, so I do want to give him every opportunity to answer these questions. So,
before I get started, I'm just going to drop 2 links in the chat box. The first one is a registration form. A lot of liberal arts colleges, or a lot of colleges in general, do track demonstrated interest. And so by filling out this form, that tells us that you were here today. And if you do end up applying, that's something that will work beneficially towards your application. Another link I'm going to drop is my personal page, and on there you'll find a lot of information about Oxy. We also have a playlist on there. You can find your territory manager, so you can find the mission officer responsible for your high school, and then on the very bottom we have a fun Spotify playlist. On the Oxy supplemental questions, one of the questions is, what song would you play to your first year roommate? It's not a part of your application evaluation at all, but that's something that we compile. We sometimes listen to the songs when we're reading your application, but right before move-in day, we send out a playlist to all of our students, incoming first years, and we say, "Welcome to Oxy. Can't wait to have you on campus soon. Here are your classmates. Meet your classmates." And so this is a fun way we just compile this playlist. So check that out. The first question I see is, what's the difference between liberal arts colleges and high-ranking small private universities? They seem pretty similar. Patrick, do you want to take a shot, or you want me to?
Yeah, sure. I guess the question then is, if you're talking about small private universities, I'm assuming you're talking about maybe something comparable to like the Ivies or maybe like a Stanford or something, right? In terms of just relative size, I think you're still looking at like, my understanding is that the average liberal arts college, you're probably looking at a population of about maybe 2,000 overall undergraduates, right? Some smaller, some slightly larger. I'm not sure. Duan, do you know like Oxy's undergrad population these days, ballpark?
Our entire college is 2,000 students. So
There
in
you
the
go.
US, to answer this question,
Hmm.
in the US, anything under 4,000 is considered small.
Right.
Anything within 7,000 to 10,000 is medium-sized college. Anything above 10,000, doesn't matter if you're 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, that's a large university.
Right.
I think the question is getting at, I'm trying to understand the question a little bit.
Right.
First of
Maybe
all,
you
I
can
would
follow
answer
up.
that all
In,
liberal arts colleges in the US are small private colleges. So oftentimes, if you're looking at ranking, for example, you'll see, a list for, um, private universities. You'll see a list for public universities, and then you'll see a list for liberal arts colleges. And the reason why these are not lumped together is because they're very different institutions in the US, and there's no actual way to kind of disaggregate the information to, view them or compare them among each other. And that's why there's three major lists in the US in terms of, if you're looking at ranking specifically, they're all separated out. So there's no way to kind of put them together. They're very different institutions. So I think the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what kind of environment do I want to be in? How do I envision myself as a college student? Do you want to be in a class? And there's no wrong answer to this. There's something for everyone. Do you want to be in a class where you are sitting there, listening to a lecture, typing notes, not participating? The faculty probably doesn't know who you are, which is totally fine. Then for that, you probably want to go to a large university, whether private or public. If you want to be in an environment where even as a first year, your professors know who you are, you can go to the office hours and ask them questions. And instead of a teacher assistant, you really get to know your classmates. It's a residential experience. No one's commuting to campus, so everyone's living on campus. Then liberal arts is something that you should probably consider adding to your list. I have a great example for this. My first year in undergrad, I took a film studies course, and I walk into this course. It's a introductory level course, so it's at the max of 35 students. And I walk into the classroom, and the professor starts off by, this is day one of our class, and the professor starts off by naming every single student because she looked at our photos on the student roster and memorized all of our names. And she didn't have a list, and she was just able to kind of go from there. And that's just the type of professors that are at liberal arts education or institutions. Our professors are really kind of dedicated to education and really dedicated to their students. I
That's
hope that answers
awesome. Yeah.
that question.
Just as a follow-up too, because I know some people will wonder this about like, in terms of graduate admissions. I know Duan already talked about like how the matriculation rate is significantly higher at Oxy for med school. And from my experience too, when I was doing my grad work at Harvard, I interned in their grad school admissions office doing minority recruitment. And I was explicitly told when I was doing the academic rankings that students or applicants from liberal arts colleges, they're, in terms of similar ranking, they're viewed in the same tier. Do you know what I mean? So like if you're getting an applicant, let's say from a Bowdoin or a Swarthmore, that they would be viewed comparably in terms of the academic rigor as someone who, let's say, for instance, went to Penn or Columbia, right? So there's no perceived disadvantage because, of course, grad school admissions people are very familiar with the academic rigor in both liberal arts colleges and national research universities. Okay, so, oh, wow, it seems like there's a lot of interest in the 3-2 program, so I'll let you handle that one.
Yeah, I'll follow up to your kind of answer as well, that in terms of graduate schools, there is no difference between academic preparedness for a liberal arts graduate versus a large university graduate. Graduate schools understand that. I would say the reason in recent years why this scale has tipped a little bit more towards liberal arts graduates is because our students have a lot more opportunities to do research, to do internships, to think critically and analytically in the classroom. And that's something that grad schools are looking for right now. And so our students tend to have a better success rate because of these lifelong skills that they're building up as liberal arts students. Yeah, a lot of questions about 3-2 engineering program. I talked about it briefly earlier. You can do 3 years at Oxy and then go on to do 2 years at Caltech or Columbia. But in recent years, most students are going to Columbia. It's not an Oxy thing. It's that Caltech is closing their doors slightly on the 3-2 program. And so just prepare that you might probably will not get into Caltech, but you can go to Columbia instead. You're not gonna apply for it when you're applying to Oxy, but it's something that you're going to apply for your junior year. So you have to maintain a certain great GPA level at the college and also maintain a certain GPA level within your STEM courses. And then you have to write an application to apply for the 3-2 program. So that's something to consider as well. Every year, about 20 students, 20 first years will indicate an interest in pursuing the 3-2 program. And then by junior year, about 2 students will actually go. And the reason for that is not really because of competitiveness of 3-2 programs. If that's something that you want to pursue and you're on the track for that, most of our students are able to achieve that. It's because a lot of our students come to campus and they spend 2 years, 3 years here, and they decide, all of my friends are in undergrad, I'm going to graduate. Like, I want to spend senior year with them, graduate together, and then I'll pursue a master's afterwards. And because of our success rate with graduate programs, our students don't have a problem, getting into accelerated programs or getting into the master programs that they want to for engineering. So yeah, I think there's a lot of questions around this as well. And a good example for this is actually from Google, where they talked about how, if you have a room full of engineers, you're not going to be very innovative in your thinking. And so if you have and they're doing this pretty often now, especially for job searches as well. We have a room of engineers, and then you throw in a liberal arts graduate who, has understanding of engineering or has understanding of computer science, but is also taking philosophy courses and psychology courses and art history courses. Now they're adding a lot more ideas into this room and can help the company grow a lot more. And so that's a good example of kind of the educate or the philosophy behind liberal arts. Oh yeah, I'll be happy to share the graduation distribution. Yes, this one. I'll leave that up for you. The 6-year ABJD program with Columbia. Yeah, another great program with Columbia. You do 4 years at Oxy, and it's actually 5 years. You do another year at Columbia for pre-law. So if you're thinking about that, that's something that you can kind of get started with. You'll graduate with 2 bachelors, but then it will be on track for a faster master's. Don't quote me on that. That's what I believe to be so. If you're interested in that, definitely check out our website and dive deeper into the pre-law program. I try to remember everything about the college, but I can't. For application from families that do not have financial hardship, are they considered for scholarship? Yes, everyone is considered for scholarship. Merit aid scholarship is not based off your ability to pay, but it's based off of your academic rigor. So we're going to look at your transcript. We're going to look at whether or not you've had an upward trend in your grades or an upward trend in your rigor. Are you taking more and more challenging courses year to year? How do you look at how does your academic compare within your school system? And how do you compare, within the pool? And that's how we determine merit aid scholarship for academic scholarships. But we also have scholarships for students that have a great impact in their community, because that's something that we really, as part of our mission, is building a community, a strong community. So if you are impactful in your community and you demonstrated that, you can also be qualified for the Community Impact Scholarship. Let's see. Mention students must live in dorms for at least 3 years. Are the dorms co-ed? And would my daughter be put in a situation to have a biological man as her roommate? No, you will not be in a room with someone that you're not comfortable with. We have gender neutral housing, gender neutral floors, but we also have segregated gender floors. And so it's when you're applying, or when you are coming in as a first year, you'll fill out your form in terms of what you want or prefer as a roommate, and you will have that opportunity to, get to know your roommate and be put in a area that you're comfortable with. When talking about or checking demonstrated interest, do you count the number of emails from students to admission office? No, we do not. We do not count the number of emails they email us. But I would say that, because we have a small class size, we tend to get to know our applicants really well, especially those that build a relationship with us. So we visit high schools, where I'm about to spend the next 8 weeks just traveling around the country and the world, visiting high schools. And that's a great opportunity for you to connect with us. And that all counts towards demonstrated interest if we are coming to your high school and you come and visit us. But you can also email us and ask us questions that are not answers that you can find on our website. But good emails, strong emails that show that you're interested in Oxy or the college that you're interested in, and you just want to kind of learn more from the admission officer in terms of what that opportunity may look like. Yeah. Pre-med track. To know more about that, I would really recommend that you also check out the pre-med advisor webpage, since you have a more specific question about psychiatry. I can tell you that 10% of our students are on the pre-med track. It's a very successful program with our 89% acceptance rate to medical school. We have a dedicated advisor. She's a staff member that is doing full-time pre-med advising for all of our students. You start your first year and you work your way up. She'll advise you on kind of what courses to take, what research opportunities to look out for, what internships to do to really strengthen your medical school acceptance rate, or application. This person's child has Asperger's, and how would that affect the application process for student life on our campus or on our college? Yeah, so you can talk about, we do a holistic review. So we consider every aspect of you, not just as a student, but as a person. And so that's definitely something that we will note, and we actually track that in our office. So when you step foot onto campus, the relevant offices like the Student Life Office and the Office of Disability Services, they will know that your child needs a special, special lookout for. It's not like high school. We're not going to be as hands-on, but we are going to pay attention and kind of make sure that your student is able to succeed in college. So that's another beneficial, part of a small residential community, is that we all kind of keep an eye out for each other. What is the average college GPA for all students? I do not know. We do not track the average GPA of our students, since it really varies from student to student. I would say you can't be too low or you will get kicked out of the college. 3-2 program admission is not guaranteed. And that's not up to us. It's up to the institutions that will take you for the remaining 2 years. For the 3-2 program, if student studies computer science at Oxy, then next 2 years cannot be computer science anymore. The 3-2 program is engineering specifically. So you would do 3 years at Oxy with a combination of computer science and physics, and then you'll do 2 years to get your engineering degree. If you want to do computer science for grad school, I would say do 4 years of computer science at Oxy, do that senior comprehensive project, and apply for grad school with your senior comprehensive project. You'll have a much better kind of result from there. Why does Columbia partner with Occidental specifically for the law program? Does it commonly do so with liberal arts colleges? Yes. Columbia has a lot of 3-2, 4-1, 4-2 programs that they partner with a lot of liberal arts colleges around the country, and Oxy is just one of them. What is a gender neutral floor? Yeah, a gender neutral floor means that in the residential hall, the bathroom is gender neutral. Students choose to live there, so you're not going to be placed there if that's not something that you're comfortable with. But they're for students that identify as non-binary or gender neutral.
All right, that's right on the dot. Thank you so much. I don't want to necessarily have our guest here answer any more questions just because he's been so gracious with his time. So once again, thank you so much for joining us in the seminar. If you have any other questions specifically about college counseling, please feel free to visit HS2's website. We do have the seminar every Friday, so you can join us again next Friday if you have other questions dealing with college admissions